All right, open up questions for Troy Glover and Justin Thomas.
Both of you guys got it started on the defensive end tonight, really stacking it up. How does that really help the team get the game going?
Honestly, it just brings energy when we get blocks and if we're covering each other's backs, because we know that if someone drives, like we have help there, we have help at the rim.
Just simply defense wins championships. I feel like it generates our offense. We can't let our offense dictate the defense, and it just takes over the game.
And then this is your second straight loss. You're going into the Fort Myers tournament. How do you really turn it around going into that?
Just putting it behind us, just having a quick memory drop, and then just keep moving forward.
The last 2 games, you're combined 4 for 30 from the three-point line. How do you kind of put that behind you and get that out of your mind?
Just really being sharper in practice, being more attentive, and just getting in the gym. We gotta shoot more in the gym and make our shots and make sure we're on top of everything.
You guys had multiple runs in the second half that kind of closed the gap a couple of times. Can you just kind of talk about how you guys look to get those runs when you're down?
Starts with getting stops. Like Troy said, it just brings energy. Like when we're getting stops on defense, and then we just keep getting what we call bodies, and then 3 stops in a row, and then it just keeps generating energy.
Justin, for you, just talking about your distribution, leading the team in assists multiple times, one off the team lead tonight. Can you just talk about being that distributor on the court for the team?
I'm a pretty big guard, so a lot of times when I go down and people just collapse, so I just look to kick to anybody that's open, try to see over the defense, and just try to give my teammates their shots.
Any more questions for our players? Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Coach, if you'd like to start with an opening statement, we'll open up for questions.
Yeah, obviously disappointing night. I thought we had a really good couple days of preparation, and at the end of the day, we couldn't put the ball in the basket, and that's going to make it really difficult to beat anybody when you shoot 3 for 19 from 3 and turn it over 18 times. And we didn't have any trouble with the press, but then we get the ball in the half court and we turn that ball over 18 times. It's going to be really hard to get a win, and so we need to get back to the drawing board. We've got to get more time in the gym, more shots, and fix our problems.
Coach, you talked about it a little bit, missing a lot of three-point shots. Is there a feeling of maybe putting too much pressure on making that three-point shot when they start to miss a lot of threes in a row?
Yeah, it's so unique because you saw it in the earlier games and in practice, that net barely moves when they shoot, for our shooters, and so to have both, our majority of our shooters kind of cold in the same day is not ideal. And I thought we had really, really good looks, but we've just got to step up and knock them down.
What are some of the ways that the offense can kind of get those shooters back into the rhythm?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's just reps, we teams that pack it in, and then William Mary did a great job. They really collapsed, and that was part of the reason for the 18 turnovers is there's no space, and when there's no space, you have to be able to stretch people out, and we get wide open looks. At some point you just gotta step up and make them, or you get the next man up, and that's really the only solution because. If you don't shoot them, you're going to have no space to operate. But we have talented enough guys that they need to be able to make those shots.
And Glover and Thomas really getting it done on the defensive end. How does that really help turn the defense into offense? Maybe help open up this offense.
Yeah, and it's hard when you're not scoring. You're always in transition defense, and you're putting your defense in a bind. But we weren't good enough defensively. Way too many blown mistakes. We were not. The pressure on the ball wasn't good enough. We're a better defensive team than what we showed, and we need to be able to score points off of our defense, which we did for stretches in the second half. But that was not what we expect from us on the defensive end.
And 2 straight losses. You're now going down to Florida to play in Fort Myers tournament. How do you kind of set this offense straight and get back into the flow?
Yeah, at the end of the day, we've got to continue to do everything right and be very much accountable for what we're doing and high discipline. And we can't get 10 offensive rebounds. That's not a good enough effort. There's things that we can't do. We can't turn the ball over. We take unnecessary, uncharacteristic risks. And we can't make any of those. So we've got to clean all that up and be more disciplined.
Coach, talk about their ability to score on backdoor cuts. I've never seen so much of that in a college game before. It just was. Did that expose something, or something you got to kind of focus or work on?
Yeah, I mean that's the disappointing part is we worked on that for ad nauseum for really 2 days and a walkthrough, and you know they were going to throw it regardless, and you know that's obviously leads to some steals, but for us to get caught off guard on probably 15 points worth of back cuts is completely unacceptable for the amount of time we spent on it.
Coach, your team is known for getting turnovers. So to have William and Mary have 8 more points off of turnovers, how important is it for you to minimize turnovers?
Yeah, and we've been good at taking care of the ball. We've been one of the better teams nationally in taking care of the ball, and that turnover margin is something we really value. You know, forcing 18 turnovers, you usually win the game, and 11, with 12 live ball steals. I mean, when you see those numbers, you're usually pretty successful. But we cannot turn it over 18 times, and it basically makes that a wash. And so that's got to be a huge priority over these next couple of days.
Coach, you guys switched to a full court press later in the game. Do you guys think you guys should be more aggressive on defense earlier in the game?
Yeah, it's such a trick. We try to do it early, a couple of possessions, and they get a 3. Part of the trick with William and Mary being a pressing team, they go against it every day. So they clearly have a plan of what they're trying to do, and they hurt you because they shoot so many quick threes. So if you get stuck in a rotation, it's going to lead to an open 3, and they're not afraid to shoot it, whereas a lot of teams will pull it back out. So it's not a great team to press, but desperate times there at the end, we did a pretty decent job, trying to speed them up a little bit.
Again, to the three-pointers, you were like technically prepared for the shot, but then you didn't make it. And after the last game, you lost. Is it like kind of a mental thing right now, or what would you say about that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say yet that they're there because in practice, I thought our offense looked as good as it's looked probably for our entire fall, and those shots were going in at a high rate, and we chart everything, and you look at it and you say, hey, you know what, this looks pretty good right now. To the point that we were, really emphasizing in the game plan to get a couple of our shooters more shots, the good thing about shooters is water usually finds its levels. The guys that are a 40% guy that's not shooting that right now I think they usually end up finding their way back to that number, and so hopefully it will be a barrage of threes here sooner than later.
Yeah, both this game and the previous one versus Davidson saw you guys down and then come back. Can you just talk about the grittiness and perseverance of your guys' team?
Yeah, this group won't quit. I mean, it's a high-character group. They want to do the right things. They're coachable, all the characteristics you want. But we got to clean up the details. We got to clean up those details. We can't take risks. We've got to play a conservative game. We're trying to make passes that are a little too high risk as opposed to making simple plays. So, but that's how we dug our hole. But the grittiness and the never quit mentality, I think that'll always be part of our program. So I expect that to be the case.
One of the positives tonight, Josiah Shackelford, he wasn't the leading scorer, but it seemed like he was all over the floor on offense and defense. Just talk about what he did tonight and what you've seen from him as just a sophomore.
Yeah, he's getting better by the game. He's learning. He's a guy that we wouldn't expect to go 0 for 4 from 3, that's for sure, and miss 3 free throws. He's a really good shooter and puts a lot of work in. So we trust him. But not his best night on the offensive end, but he still was gritty and plays hard, and he's trying to do all the right things. And he's just scratching the surface. He doesn't have a lot of starts under his belt. Didn't start very much last year at his previous school, and so he's a little bit of a work in progress. But we're happy with his progress.
More questions? Great. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.